Weird, that wasn't shoehorned in at all.
Diminishing returns.
Hello and welcome to the Drunkduck QUACKCAST. This is QUACKCAST number 800 and million thousand. No, I'm sorry. This is QUACKCAST 485.
Feels like it.
Yeah. I'm Ozone Ocean, of course, and with me is Tance, Pitt, and Baines. Hello, my crew.
Hello.
Hello.
This is the motley QUACKCAST crew here, chatting away. And this week we're talking about the idea of work that no one ever sees. Or what if no one ever sees it? This is inspired by Baines' news post on Thursday. Thursday the, 26th? I think was the date. Or the 25th. So. It was the 25th. That was the date. Okay. So yeah, you came up with an interesting news post about what if no one ever sees it, and every single person commented on it. So obviously this is quite an interesting thing.
Isn't that ironic? People did see it.
People love your throwaway stuff. That's it. So before we talk about that,
I spent a lot of time on that.
Oh, I know, you were crafting this for months before finally, and you were contemplating on it, on having it as a news post that no one ever sees, but the last minute...
That's the plan. Didn't work out.
Yeah, last minute you decided to make it live.
Yeah.
And made a hit news post, and now all the radio stations are playing it. I don't know where this is going. What's that?
It's going to be a Netflix series.
True Baines detective stories. That was it. That was it. Before we get into that, we've got to bring up the features comic. And I'm glad that the featurer, the person that did this comic, did not decide to keep it as a comic that no one ever sees. They decided to promote it, and, well, not promote it, but actually do it and put it on the dark, and now people have seen it, and it's great. So I'm going to talk about Plethora Island now. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was Plethora Island. Mason Landfall and his big sister Pierre relocate to a strange island together, an island inhabited by monsters. They're mostly friendly, regular people who just happen to be monsters, but they're still monsters nevertheless. Oh, and there are plenty of humans on the island too. And monstrous humans, and humans that become monsters, and monsters that can become humans, and all combinations of those things. Pierre won't tell Mason what they're there for. Poor Mason doesn't even know much about his own parents. Well, apparently they were famous monster hunters, but that's all we know for now. Mason falls in with a conspiracy club in the hope of finding some answers. They're a mixed bunch and might be landing Mason with more trouble than he can handle. The art is very polished. It's cartoony and cel-shaded. It's also full colour with a slight manga influence. The story is a mystery action comedy. You know, quite a bit of comedy. Very manga influenced. Very, very. In all respects. So it's definitely worth looking at. It looks really cool. It flows along at a good pace, and it's a young adult, I would say, would be the audience that it's targeted at. It's by PKism or Pixum, and it's rated T. So have a look at Plethora Island. And that was the featured comic, Cornucopia Mountain. Sorry, no. Plethora Island. Plethora Island, which is very well named. Okay, so next up we have the featured music that Gun Wallace has given us. a lovely little tune. He came quite late with it, and he gave it to me on Friday, I think it was, but I didn't get around to reviewing it until today. So, this tune is for the comic called Pious, or Pierce, depending on how you say it. And it's an adult comic too, so...
Oh, maybe it is Pierce.
What did you say? Penis?
Yes.
Pierce. Goodness me. Yeah, so Pious, not penis. The music I would describe as glide into white sepulchral stillness and venerate at the holy altar in the glowing light of purity as it shines down from the heavenly firmament high above, or worship in a far more earthly fashion with an angel in red latex and leather wings. So take it away, Gunwallace, with Pious. And that was the featured music, Pious. So I hope you enjoyed the sound of the Pious music. And this is a comic by Hulda, and it's rated A. So the viewer discretion is advised.
I love a delicious pie. Pious.
Pious. You'd love a delicious penis? Sorry, Bones. Sorry.
Let's see.
I had to say that.
Life of Pious.
The Life of Pious.
Exactly.
I saw that movie. It was okay.
It was okay, yeah.
It's got a tiger in it.
Yeah, tiger.
A
Tiger.
little bit of aluminium.
It's aluminium on a raft.
It was an aluminium tiger.
I hate her.
Okay. All right. The idea of nobody ever seeing your work. Now, this has a lot of different meanings. I mean, you could like create work with the express idea that no one is ever going to see it, and that is influencing everything about your creation. So you're making this stuff knowing no one's ever going to see it. So you're just going crazy. You're going hog wild. At creating something crazy because you know no one is ever going to see it and you don't want anyone to see it. There can be.
I guess that's what I was
go on.
thinking. I wasn't thinking in terms of like sketches that you do to prepare.
Okay.
Like I have like scrap paper, sketches of my characters, tons and tons of it, like drawn on just blank paper, the backs of receipts, paper bags, just everywhere, like drawing the characters in different situations. I do it less now. I do more sketching just in the computer now, but before that, there was tons of stuff that was intended to develop something that would be seen, but those actual sketches would never be seen. It was just to figure out kind of like, I guess, to practice the characters and also to figure out little scenes and stuff that looked funny, or would make good scenes and like trying to sort of refine the look of the characters. I wasn't really thinking of that kind of stuff because that is never intended to be seen, but it wouldn't even cross your mind. I guess I was thinking of like comics that you, even in first draft, that you finish, stories that you finish even in first draft, stuff that you actually work on and finish, but they're either nobody ever sees it or you never present it to anyone.
Okay, but you're not working
whatever
at
you want
them.
to talk about.
You're not working at them thinking, I don't want anyone to see this.
Exactly.
Okay.
They might or might not be perfectly presentable, but it's like, this is just for me. I found I definitely do a lot less of that once I started posting webcomic.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Same
starting
here.
to do a little more. Yeah.
Oh, you're doing it more again.
A little bit, yeah. There are scenes in my head that I've had every time I'm thinking of a new series, which I'm putting a couple together. These same scenes would come up in my mind. Like I've had these things in my mind forever. And some of them will probably go into something, but some of them I'm like, I'm going to start writing these scenes. So I started writing some of them, and some of them will probably never be seen. I kind of wrote them more just to get them out of my head.
Okay.
I mean, who knows? But yeah, I'm doing more of that now. And when I was a kid, I did a lot. Like I talked about on Patreon and in the news posts, like drawing a comic on a chalkboard and erasing it before doing the next scene.
Oh yeah.
That was definitely, I had no concept that I would ever show anyone. But I would also make them on paper, and they were kind of just for me.
I used to do that too. I'd come up with like little funny like comic strip ideas, and no one would ever see them, and they would be freaking hilarious to me because they'd be like of Friends or like in jokes and stuff like that, which no one's going to find funny except for me, and I would be laughing my ass off. Like there was one when a friend of mine was telling me about how him and his brother, like they were removalist, and he was so proud of the fact that he moved this pool table down a set of stairs, and he told me how they did it. They had to strap themselves to it, and my mind immediately came to this idea of him and his brother strapped to this pool table, the pool table careering madly down the stairs.
Yeah.
With them strapped to it, screaming.
That does seem to be, that's asking for disaster. Tie yourself to a pool table.
Screaming. And I did this comic strip of them, like with their arms flailing and their faces horrified as they were running down the stairs on this out of control pool table. And no one's ever seen it. And I couldn't really show it to them because they didn't know him or whatever. But yeah, that was funny to me. So stuff like that, it's good. Doing your mean little comics.
I mean, I think when we have, yeah. I mean, when you have little inner thoughts like that, and sometimes for some reason you just need to express them, even if it's just to yourself. It's like having this little itch that you need to scratch. And I used to draw comics like that all the time before I found Drunkduck. Kind of actually really glad that I didn't find public outlets for my comics until I was a little bit more advanced, because I made some real cringy shit, and those never saw the light of day. I literally had at least one whole huge box of comics I had made, and I either burned it or thrown it out, which I regret a little bit. I wish I didn't do that, because now I look back, it's like, dude, like everybody's got stupid shit up on the internet. Like, why did it feel like the end of the world at the time if anybody saw that stuff? When it wouldn't be. But anyway, yeah. Nowadays, I'm kind of like that. What you said before, where like I don't make personal comics as much, if ever. Um, which it kind of sucks. I think there is a benefit to doing that. Stuff that you just intend for yourself. Um, it's almost like keeping a journal in a sense. Not that you're recording, that you necessarily have to record like this happened to me, but it's something. It's an inner thought of yours, whether it's funny or it's sexy or like whatever. It's your inner thought that you're expressing and you're exploring a little bit more. And if you don't intend it to share it with everybody, I think that will enable you to make it a bit more sincere in a sense.
Yeah, like
That's
maybe it's
interesting.
really intensely personal, more than you'd want to share publicly. So you want to get it out, but it's kind of like not for everybody to look at.
Now that you mention it, when I was in high school, and I guess senior high school, like we have high school and lyceum, so junior and senior high school, I guess.
Okay.
I used to have this notebook that wasn't even a notebook with blank pages. It was a regular notebook, spiral, with a spiral binding. And
This kind of.
it had, yeah, exactly. And I had all kinds of stickers outside of it, and it was a mess. It was a horrid mess. And inside I had little sketches of things, little cartoons that I found. I never intended for people to see these cartoons. And I was so proud of them as them being like a genius political commentary. And like super groundbreaking stuff, man, that would break the world if anyone saw them. That sort of thing. Yeah, I had my little delusions of grandeur when I was around 15. But anyway, they were some were cute, and I still have a few of those. They have survived. And they were very, very cartoony in the sense of like a caricature cartoony, let's say. And I always got inspired by stuff my teachers would say. And I was very bored usually at school. I have to say that I was a good student, but I was bored at school. And especially during most of lecture time in classes. So I had two occupations. Either I was illustrating the stuff my teachers were saying with my commentary, and I felt that I was being super awesome doing that, or I played Battleship with someone else. Either or. So yeah, and they were the thing. However, they were very significant in the sense that although they were not, super original, they were not original thoughts. They were bits and pieces of different things that I was exposed to or was thinking about and stuff like that. I did get this little safe space, so to say, so to speak, of where my actual original thinking explored ideas and played with ideas and felt that nobody would criticize me for it because I was not going to show it to anyone. And that nuance, a few of the stuff wasn't cringy. A lot of it was. But some of that stuff was not cringy. And it was a little inkling of something that then I researched more and I looked into more. And then I got into some of my approaches to philosophy, to sociology, to political science and stuff through those innocuous little cartoons, especially. And I remember there are two that I remember very clearly, like a Kodak moment of me actually making them, because most I don't remember making. And one was we have ancient Greek as a mandatory class, both the translations and the original text. And we were doing this this very important speech that was given by a very very well known philosopher and stuff. And it was very pompous. For me, it sounded so damn pompous, and that he was trying to basically wow his audience before he actually said what he wanted to say. So I drew a cartoon of him talking to semi-asleep Athenians, saying all these things. And then the second frame was that when they were asleep, he said the actual thing. And then he yelled again on the third panel, and they all said yes, but they hadn't actually heard what he had actually said. So they voted for something that they didn't actually listen to, and they still had the idea that they had. So that was my first original political thought that I can recall.
Okay.
At around 15, somewhere there.
That's a pretty clever idea.
And that
That
little clip was what did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly it, expressing your inner thoughts and stuff like that. And it's funny, as we're talking about this, I'm remembering more that I made that I forgot about, perhaps repressed. But I mean, they kind of come out of the woodwork, you know. I always had my drawing pad like attached to me at all times. And which gave birth to a lot of bullshit. They were never anything deep or philosophical, I don't think. I remember I did have some fan comics. And for a long time, the only person that I would actually show things were my stepbrother, Josh. And I remember at one point I had made a fan comic of us together where we were kidnapped by Saiyans and we went with them on space adventures.
Oh my god!
But we had so much fun making this comic, but it was just for the two of us. Like, God, it's coming back now, because like both he and I are near the same age. I think there's like 3 years difference. But we would always, like, whenever our parents would get together, we would just hang out, and like he'd play video games, and like we were both really into, like, you know, the newer anime at the time, the stuff that came over on Toonami, and we were super into Dragon Ball Z, and we would just like go back and forth, like, what did this happen? What did this happen? Oh God, I forgot about how fun that was. But yeah, that was just between the two of us, thank God. But it was just really just fucking fun. You know what I mean? Like, even if I look back and think about how cringy it was, the fun that we had overshadows it, and I find myself really glad that we did that. And then Putrid Meat, what that used to be, was a far different comic, and I think I've talked about it before, that started from a comic that I did. This started for myself a long time ago, and I restarted it over and over and over again. Like, usually in its incarnation, the big bird. In its incarnation, it was like about like some guy, he was a demon inside, and he didn't really know it, and then he got in a bar fight one night, and it like brought the demon out of him, and he killed some guys, but then like he had to go on the run and like say goodbye to his family, and like he's kind of like he had like long hair and stuff like that, and like over the years, like, oh, this sucks, and I would change this and that, and then eventually it became Bones and Septica, but um, that came from a comic that I intended for myself, um, and I kept on doing it over and over and over again because even though it was for myself, as the years went on, my taste in what was gratifying to me continued to change, and so I would start it over to keep up with it, and it became almost like a joke among my friends because they're like, "Oh, did you start it over again?" I'm like, "Yep," but in high school, it that was the first time that I started to do it. It was still primarily for me, but my little group of friends, they actually started to get interested in it. And one of my friends actually, like, I would do the pencils and then he would do the ink outlines. Shit, I forgot about all that too. Comics were really a big part of my life. They really were. I think they were kind of like my, um, I don't want to say therapy in a sense, but they were like my comfort blanket, I think. So I was always doing them. Always, all the time.
Mhm.
I can't imagine not doing them. But now it's completely different. So,
Wow.
in the sense that I do that to put up somewhere.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, they're done
It's
for.
amazing that you describe that because that was exactly my experience with writing. The cartoons I never showed to anyone, but the writing was always for me and my close friends, and they were all characters in my little adventures and short stories, and they were all waiting with bated breath for my second, third, fourth installment of okay, what's gonna happen next, and can you do this, and can we be in that situation and stuff like that. And I would write and write and write to make all these stories where me and my friends were basically in the middle of some kind of adventure, usually solving crime or stumbling upon something that was extremely dangerous and had to warn people, and people would believe us, and then we had to find ways to get them to see it for themselves and stuff like that. The very usual kids versus adult trope that was very
Yeah.
much a thing in the
Famous
90s.
Five and all that stuff. It's
Yeah,
eternal,
exactly.
really.
And then I remember that I started branching out to fan fiction of very favorite characters of ours. So I got these requests of putting the characters in different situations. And so I would write a story for them. And that's how I got into writing.
All right.
So,
So it inspired you. It not even inspired you, but it trained you
mhm.
in a way
But that
to make
was
the move.
so people. Although it was just, for my friends and me, I never intended for these stories to be read by anyone else. And actually, I was horrified when it was picked up by my father, and really he had a laugh, and I can understand why he laughed now. But then I was horrified because I felt that he was ridiculizing my efforts, and yeah, that was a thing. But yeah, I never intended for anyone to actually read them. So later I said, okay, I want to write something serious that could be published, even if I never show it to anyone, and even if it never gets published. And that was my first serious piece of writing, which was with original characters, and it was horrible in retrospect, and I burned it. But it was my first completed story, and it had an attempt to actually conform to writing models and to certain rules of writing and narrative and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys ever do anything that is not meant to be seen? It's just for you, but then you change your mind?
Yes.
Oh, Okay, that's interesting.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, the comic that I'm planning to start in parallel to Without Moonlight, because I want to do something else that is completely different to Without Moonlight on all levels, uh, comes from a set of characters that I actually never intended for them to be seen. So yeah,
Oh wow!
now they.
All right.
Mhm.
They'll find their light.
Yeah,
They'll come to the
after
light.
20 years, 25 maybe.
It's interesting. I think I have a similar thing. You know, I'll come up with an idea that, you know, maybe it's just for fun or something, and then I'll like go, no, no, this it's wasted effort if no one sees it. So I might as well, you know, do a version that everyone can see. And everything ends up getting rolled into my public work. I think that's just how I go with stuff.
Yeah. I kind of get that too, a little bit. I think that's how things have changed since I have begun putting things online. It's like if I have the effort to do this, and you know, the stories, once you do start to put effort into them, you become kind of black holes for ideas and stuff. Everything gets kind of coded in that vision that you're seeing it through, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Or at least, you know, it gets creatively sucked in to that as well. Like, yeah, we needs more. Always needs to feed on your work and your passion and your time. This project.
They say more.
Exactly. This is a monster. It needs all these things. So you give it these things, and yeah, it just keeps on going. Well, then I think that's positive. I think that's a good thing. I won't go into that because we've talked about that kind of stuff before. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to keep on, to be able to use your things in your current project.
Makes sense. Or in another project to be released. I'm writing lots of stuff for like just for myself right now. I think that if any of it comes out any good, I probably will release it though.
Yeah.
It's like it's the stuff that doesn't work at all. But I am being somewhat more patient. I'm not like just starting to like do pages and post them before I have it at least somewhat figured out where it's all going.
Here's something interesting.
So what is the draw to?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go. You go.
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh no. God damn it, Pit Face! Your memory has to last longer than 3 seconds. Oh God.
You said what is the draw to?
Oh, so what is the draw for us for publishing things? I mean, does it go beyond, you know, having a following? Do you think?
Interesting. I think it goes beyond having a following, because I don't care about that anymore. Like I think way back when I started, you really intensely cared, but I think for me it's just feeding that monster. It's putting that stuff out there. It's because you've started it, and I want to bloody finish this damn story. And I don't know, when I create something new or something like that, I think, how can I like fertilize this to give this a bit more like life? I know, like add it to Pinky TA or, you know, Bottomless Waitress, but mainly Pinky TA because that's my, you know, prime creation, and Baines is the one who comes up with the ideas in Bottomless Waitress mainly. But for Pinky TA, I just want to like if I think I could make something more about something, then I'll put it into there. Then that will be the potting mix for it to to flourish.
Yeah.
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 For me, um, I I definitely appreciate and really like it when I see that people like what I do and follow what I do, and there is always this effort and wish for me to be able to actually live off my art, as I guess is a dream for all of us. However, even if that never happens, it's it's sharing and communication, because or even if somehow, even if I don't intend for anything to be a really big statement or whatever, which sometimes I do, I still want to say something when I make a story that I intend other people to read or experience, if it's a word for me. So if I'm talking, I want it not to be to a desert. I want to have someone listen and hopefully respond in some manner. That is for me very rewarding.
Yeah, I get that. I think for me, and it sounds like probably for you guys as well, and probably for a lot of people listening, the satisfaction doesn't come from the number of people reading. It comes from people sharing enthusiasm for something that gives you enthusiasm. Like, if I post something, and we've talked about this before, but you know, if I post something and it's a part that I really like to make, if I see in other people that they seem to be enjoying it too, you know, it doesn't even have to be like, wow, this is the most amazing thing ever. It doesn't have to be that, but even like holy smoke, like look what he did or something. Like, that gives me a joy inside that's really fulfilling. And I think that's the reason why I put things online.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I think that to post stuff in the world we live in now with our technology, to post, like to release what you do is the natural state of things. Like that would be mainly what you do, you know?
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. Like, it's not the number of readers; it's not the number of likes, even. Like, I mean, maybe on like if you're releasing an opinion on social media, it's different. But it's like it is maybe it's not different, but it's the engagement. Yeah, it's like it's the comments. That's
and I mean, I would like there to be a lot of people. That would be really nice, as long as I can see that there's some enthusiasm from there. You know, like don't get me wrong. If I woke up tomorrow and there were 1,000 new comments for Blitzov, you know, or even just 5, although I would feel slightly guilty because I'm putting it under hiatus for now, which I need to announce an indefinite hiatus, unfortunately. I know.
He's going to be stuck down in that cave.
Maybe one day.
Foreseeable future.
He's mad now. He's going to be real pissed once he gets the news. I might bring it up one day. But,
going to go on anti-feature.
Asking him what's wrong.
Yeah.
What's so glum about Blitzov? You're stuck in a cave.
Just cool down there for a little bit. But I mean, like, don't get me wrong. If I saw that there were like 5 new readers tomorrow or something, like, hey, that's a good feeling. That's a cool feeling.
Oh yeah, man.
But I don't feel like that's the reason why I'm doing it. I'm just sharing enthusiasm. And it's also, I think what you said too, that really struck a chord with me, Baines, what you were saying, like, this day and age, we can't help but share things, and that's due to the technologies that we have open to us now. You know, all 4 of us grew up in a time when sharing your ideas and your artwork and everything, things that come from you, to masses of people at once. Like, it was like either you get, involved in some kind of publisher or something like that, or there's some gate to go through that a lot of us probably wouldn't pass, but now that we are growing up in this new kind of field, this playing field in a sense, not that I want to make it sound competitive, in some ways it is, but it's this new playing field where we have free sites like the Duck where anybody can go and share their things. I know for me, it's also like I want to participate in that. I want to just also show that I'm here in a sense.
Yeah, that's a big
For sure.
drive, isn't it? It's because a lot of what we do as humans is part of a social culture. We are a pack animal. We are a herd creature, and a lot of our culture is about fitting in and social communication. So that influences all these things that we do in so many different ways. And this is another aspect of it. This is showing what we're doing. We're communicating with people in a second person or first person way. But we find pleasure out of that we get endorphins or serotonin or whatever you call it happening in our brain when we share stuff, and we know people are looking at it and responding to it positively. This makes us feel good.
Yeah, it does. I don't think it has to be any more complicated than that. Well, that answers that question anyway.
You guys actually have me thinking about, yeah. Like, now that we're here in this conversation, I'm now thinking that if there was no Drunkduck, there was no this or no that, nowhere to sort of show this publicly other than passing it around to your family and friends, I don't know. I don't know if I would be doing any of it. Just
That's
a very, very little.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know if I would be doing what I'm doing right now, but I think I would always at least illustrate things, go with my writing. I would probably do more writing if that didn't exist, because now I'm basically balancing on two boats. But totally would still make some strips, and I would still make some comics.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting from you for sure, Tans, from what you were saying. Like you would still be doing something for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would at all.
Yeah.
Or just very minimal.
I think I would just evolve to drawing dicks on everything. Like I would have just got caught up in the drug of life too much and lost all of the skill that I picked up, but I would be repressing things too much until I realized I could take a Sharpie and just draw dicks on everything and make those dicks however I want, and that would be how I assert control over my life.
There you go.
Lovely. Pitface Dictopia.
I'm just imagining this fanciful fantasy land with rolling hills, and as you walk in the hills part, there's towers of dicks just straight up in the air in the most majestic fashion, out of never-ending space.
That place exists in Korea, so look up the Dick Monument place in Korea. It exists. What's that?
Would it be called Phallus City or something like that?
Phallus City. Or what Mr. Garrison did a story about that in South Park, the Valley of Penis.
St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg. Oh my god, that is awesome. Oh jeez. Oh, we've gone so off track here but it's glorious, and I appreciate it. It's hard to follow up. Oh crap! All right, someone do something quickly.
So how many of the comics that you made were about porn?
Oh,
We talked about the cast, but
Yeah.
we all did it. I just want to reiterate that we all did it. Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself.
Yeah,
But
a lot
I
of,
did
I
it.
don't know about a majority. I don't know what the proportion is, but definitely a lot of stuff that I drew that would never be shown to anyone would have been a saucy single panel situations. Maybe 2 or 3 panels in a story. I don't know.
I think the raunchiest scenes I have ever drawn are actually publicized and are in Without Moonlight. Those are
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
my iris in bed scenes. The hottest slash sauciest slash cringiest I have made. So
It's very sensual.
Very
Very well, it's
sensual.
well done. It's well done.
Sensual.
sensual.
They are lovers.
Uh,
I love making that sound creepy. Oh, good. Okay, I'm sharing a link here. This is for Pit. This is
Uh-oh.
Haesindeng Park in Korea. So Tance, right up your alley as well. Korea.
oh,
Your favorite place in the world.
Hopefully not literally.
I was trying to think of a way to properly respond to that phrasing, and I'm still speechless.
Right up your alley. Oh, goodness me. So, porn
My
comics.
is limits to everyone. Thank you very much.
It's just closed off. So okay, porn comics. Hmm, hmm. It's been a long time since I've done anything like that, but yeah, it would just be one panel most of the time. Apart from that professional one I was paid to do, it would just be just a couple of panels or whatever. It's hard to remember, but I did do them. Yeah, definitely. And it was just something you found it a bit, you get turned on by an idea and you want to illustrate it and have a bit of fun with it and see where it goes. So, yeah, that was a good reason to do it. Now I'm able to subsume that into like my own comics that I'm doing, or Bottomless Waitress and stuff like that, which aren't really porn, but they feature human bodies and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah.
I said don't. Sorry. Go on.
I think
Human bodies and things like that. It's a good title for a porn.
Human, yeah.
Bodies, things like that.
I think
Part
actually,
3.
if I intended,
I don't know what it
when
is.
or at least
Human bodies.
for people to see, are we talking over each other? Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that if I
No,
felt
nobody was
that
saying
I
anything.
No, go on, Tons. Go on.
the thing that I was going to say, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
What were the subjects that you do porn comics on? I mean,
How do you mean?
like, would it be a story or a joke or a scenario you'd want to see?
Okay, if I were to do a porn comic ever, I would want to not take it too seriously. So I think it might even go into comedy while still being sexy, I guess. That's the only way I would be able to approach it, I think.
Same.
Yeah, it's the same, although it's really hard to do. Comedy is a challenge. But that's what would make it more fun.
There's some stuff out there that it can, yeah, or at least because like if you have like a porn comic, like if you're making it for your own collection, like I have scenes sometimes that I'll draw out. That's part of the magic of working on digital mediums is, you know, after you draw it and you're ashamed of yourself, you just delete it. But it's kind of funny because I'm flipping through my notebook here that I've been writing notes in, and I've been kind of softly sketching out some scenes that I'll like how do I start off the comic and stuff like that. This is from my new comic Inhabitants that's going to launch again soon.
Yeah.
Make sure you see it. It's not a porn comic, but I have drawn porn of it, and it tends to be just a few panels, like just to kind of get the idea across to me. And I forgot about that till we were talking about this just now, and I was flipping through, and I don't think I draw really gnarly stuff, but I draw stuff like to kind of get personal, like the characters, like personal reactions and stuff across. I'm more kind of focused on that. So like when I make them, I'm not so much focusing on like, you know, the in and out, the penetrations and all that stuff. Unless a special mood hits me, then I might. But those don't really turn into comics. Those are just like really bad sketches that I delete before I finish them.
Have a fire.
If it's something more fleshed out that I see to fruition, like it has a little bit more essence behind it. So that so that goes along with like if I make something, maybe it will be a little bit more funny or a little bit more. Mine are kind of a little bit romantic, I think that's what kind of draws me to them is like the connection, and sometimes that might be a little bit more funny, or sometimes it's just, I don't know, it's about the connection, I think, for me.
Yeah.
Not just the physical connection of putting a wee-wee in something, but the inner, it's about your inner wee-wee.
Oh, God. Oh, my goodness me. Well, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. For me, when I was doing that kind of stuff, it'd just be because I'm a very visual thinker. You know, that's why I do comics. So I would just want to do something that I want to see. And it didn't exist anywhere in the world except in my brain. So I wanted to get it out there on the page so I can see it. So that was my thing. And I think that's always been my thing with drawing any kind of stuff. It'd just be because it doesn't exist in reality, but it will when I put it on the page. So that was my drive.
Yeah. It's kind of nice that it exists, but then there's that thought, like, why would anybody else want to see this? Like, not even just like a thought out of disgust, but just like, why would it be interesting to anybody but me? I hope it would be, but I'm going to keep it for myself.
Yeah.
Because it just would be interesting.
And actually, I do think that at least, I think for everyone, not just gender connected, because they are saying that women like sexual content if it is connected to some kind of nuance and meaning and physical and psychological connection or emotional connection or context, which I think has a lot of grains of truth. But I also think that holds for males as well, for men. I don't think it's just necessarily, carnal stuff. So I do think that the most successful porn, I would say, is the one that has um, a lot of context attached to it. Let's put it like that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to have, yeah, it has to have some kind of story, and it not only be about the pizza guy, I guess. So
You know what? Mine
yeah,
are my single panel things that I've drawn are very much like they would have to be put into a way larger story because I think of the whole scenario. Like this guy was part of a group. They went to this planet. He got separated from the group. There's someone he used to know, and then this whole like this. It's like this whole series of events that would have led up to whatever situation I ended up drawing. So it could be released, but it would be a massive undertaking. Story surrounding this single scene.
5,000
and
page.
They're never
like
standalone comics, really.
when it came to the one sex scene that I do have in Without Moonlight and stuff, and also other situations where I could have totally indulged to make something more descriptive, more graphic, I guess, because there are other instances that I could have done that. The thing that it's not that I wasn't tempted to put a bit of shock value in it or a bit more sauce or whatever. It's that I felt that, okay, everyone knows how these things work. It's no mystery. There is no need for me to be this descriptive. And it will be better if that description is provided by the reader rather than by me. So I felt that it would be far better if I had the stimulus without the full, like the whole 9 yards, let's say, of something.
Yeah, but it
I
just
think it makes it sexier in
Yeah.
a sense, or more. I don't want to say stimulating because it's not always stimulating, but it invokes more attention.
I would say that it depends on whether you had a real drive to do it. So, it can be that, I could, but, people are, it's going to be evocative enough anyway. Everybody knows what's going to happen. It's going to work better if I don't show it. But maybe in a certain situation, you might think, I really want to draw this scene. I really want to show people. It could be from that kind of point of view. Like, I want to do this butt. I've got this great idea in my head for how this butt's going to look. And I want to put that on the page.
yeah. And that's where I think the thinking between, because so like you were talking about the scene Without Moonlight and stuff, and those are scenes that you've published. That's not something you've kept to yourself. And I think the thinking for that can kind of cross section with the thinking where I'm doing this for me. Well, the way it differs, of course, is in theory, because who knows how you would have drawn it if you were just drawing it for yourself. But when you were putting it, making it to go online, I'm sure that you were considering, like you were just saying, like, how's it going to come across? And I'm sure the thing in your forefront wasn't, I want to make this sex scene starring a Nazi, as hot as possible. I want it to fit in the narrative and be what it's there for, which you did, Whereas if it was something you would have made for yourself, maybe it would have been a little bit more different. Maybe not. That's a world that we don't know about, or a reality that we don't know about. But where the two different realities can overlap is like what Oz was just saying. Like, say I want to make a sex scene and I want it to fit in the narrative, but I also want to find things in it that are still provocative for me to include them, which is when you might be like, you know, I'm telling the story through this scene, but here's a nice butt shot while we hear it or something, or, you know, like, I don't know. It's just, it's interesting in the different ways that you kind of frame it.
Oh yeah. God. Well, we've reached our hour about that time, so we can sum up with stuff that we do like that no one ever will see. So I think it's important to have that freedom, but as you grow older, it's harder. Well, as not as you grow older, but as you become more of a creator, I think it becomes harder because you've only got so much time in the day, you know? You've only got so much inspiration. So it's harder to have stuff that you'll make without wanting to show people.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry,
my feeling.
everybody. We're typing and making really stupid sex jokes in the chat, which is why we're all quiet. Sorry, y'all.
Oh my God. Oh,
Not that
jeez.
is intended to be heard or seen by anyone but us.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to the QUACKCAST, people.
What if nobody ever hears this QUACKCAST? How crazy would that be?
It's their loss.
Ironic.
Okay.
If a podcast falls short and nobody's around to hear it, it really happens.
Exactly.
Did it. The sound of one quack quacking. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.